Well, folks, this is not going to be a typical headphone review. I'm also comparing three completely random set of Bluetooth headphones that are all, well, actually two of them are pretty equally priced. The Samsung Galaxy Buds Live and then the Jabra Elite 75Ts. They're pretty close, but then there's also the AUKEY, what's the model number of these AUKEYs? EPN5, AUKEY EPN5. Okay, so anyways, why am I making this video? Well, I was considering all these headphones myself and I've tried them out, and when you watch reviews, a lot of the reviews, they start talking about build quality and all these other things. I'm talking about nothing but sound. So if you really care about sound, if that's like your main thing, not active noise cancellation, nothing but sound. So everything in this video is about nothing but sound. And when I say sound, I mean very particular. I'm very particular about sound, so I'm going to give everything I can tell you about these headphones because I've played quite a lot of music through them, and I think I could maybe help out a little bit here. But the ones that I've heard the strangest reviews on are the Samsung Galaxy Buds Live. And I think the reason that is because out of all the headphones I've ever tried, the Samsung Galaxy Buds Live are so particular about how you put them in your ear. Now you might be thinking, yeah, but aren't a lot of those? Yes, a lot of them are particular, but not as much as these ones. So for example, a lot of the reviews said that, wow, the bass is really awesome on these Galaxy Buds Live. You know, they're like super impressed. And then a few other people were like, yeah, the bass is horrible. I wish there was more bass on these headphones. So you're probably thinking, what the hell is going on? Well, I would always trust the people that say the best, like that the bass is good. I'll explain why. So if you ever read a review and someone says the bass is really amazing on these, it's because the bass is really amazing. I'll explain why. It's because you can't pretend. You can't invent that the bass is good. So if you hear good bass, it's because it has good bass. Now, when someone says, yeah, these Galaxy Buds, they don't have very good bass, I wish it had more bass, that doesn't necessarily mean they don't have bass. It could just mean that they're not positioned right inside their ear because, right? So, but if you hear a lot of reviews saying these have really good bass, it's because they have really good bass. And I played around with them, and if you don't position them right, yeah, they don't have very good bass. But if you get them right, they have amazing bass. As far as like open back, these are, I don't know if they're called semi-open back or open back, but for a semi-open back headphone, they have the best bass I've ever heard, by far. Like for example, the Jabra Elite 75Ts, they probably have the best bass I've heard in an earbud, as far as the ones I've heard. But those are really sealed in, and so they're designed very differently than the Samsung Galaxy Buds, which is another thing I heard a lot. People complaining about the Galaxy Buds Live that the noise cancellation doesn't work good, or they don't seal well, external noise. Well, they're open back or semi-open back. That's not what they're designed for. So let's get into sound. The ones that surprised me the most by far were the AUKEY ones, the AUKEY EPN5s. I'm just going to say AUKEY. I'm not going to say EPN5. You get the idea which ones they are. Now these in Canada, with the coupon code, they were $69, $69.99. That is the best set of $69 headphones I've ever heard. Like I said, there's a million headphones, so I'm not saying I've heard them all, but as far as headphones that I've heard, they're the best sounding $69.99 headphones I've ever heard. Okay, so how do these compare? I'm going to start with the AUKEY ones first because they surprised me the most. The sound of them is a little tighter, like this. This is tight. The Samsung Galaxy Buds Live, instead of being here, they're like here. What I mean by that, like separation, sound separation. So the sound is not very separated, but the AUKEYs have really good bass, and the mids and the highs are right on the verge, for me anyways, for my ears, of like where if they were any brighter, it would have like a treble spike that I wouldn't enjoy. And when I talk about treble spikes, for those maybe not familiar with sound, it's just the idea if like the treble is too boosted, it'll literally feel like a screwdriver, like somebody shoved a screwdriver in your eyes, no, in your ears, and your eyes too, both. So it's just too much high frequency. I would say these are at the absolute limit where it's like it's bright in the mids and highs, but not so bright that it hurts your ears. If it was any brighter, if it was like a few percentage more bright, I probably wouldn't like them, but they actually sound great. What's really cool about headphones that have a brighter sound in the mid-range and the treble is they're really great for people who don't like to listen to music too loud, because I don't crank it too loud. I would say with most headphones, depending on how loud they are, my volume is like on wireless Bluetooth headphones, I would say on if they're very quiet headphones, maybe I'll crank it up to like 70% volume, but usually like 50-60% is kind of like where I listen to music. So if you like to listen to music really loud and you crank these like all the way, they might actually, I haven't tried, but they might actually be a little bit too trebly, or they might spike a little bit, maybe. But at the volumes that I listen to, they're actually really great because they have a lot of detail. They have a lot of detail in the sound, even at low volumes. Because a lot of the times with certain headphones, you have to really boost up the volume to get the details you want in like guitars and vocals and stuff like that. So they're $69 and they have really great bass and very good mids and highs. My only real complaint sound-wise, because that's all I'm talking about, is the separation is not that great. You're not going to have very good like stereo imaging. Everything is kind of like pretty like right there. As opposed to the Samsung Galaxy Buds Live, which have amazing separation between instruments, which means if you listen to any music that sounds very congested, like for example, one of my favorite albums is a Soundgarden album called Super Unknown. The sound quality of that album, it's produced and engineered really great, but you need a very good sound system to really make that album sound good, because if you don't, everything just sounds squished together. There's too much stuff going on. So for an album like that, where everything just sounds too congested and squished in together, the Samsung Galaxy Buds just like literally take it all and widen it so you actually hear the separation between the instruments. The Samsung Galaxy Buds Live are really amazing for any music that sounds too congested. It'll just like separate all the instruments really amazingly. So like, let's say you listen to an album and if you listen to it, it's got two guitars pan to the left and right. If you listen to it on the AUKEY ones, like pan to the left and right, the guitars kind of sound like they're both here. But with the Samsung Galaxy Buds Live, the guitars sound like they're like you can hear like huge separation between the two guitars. And like I said, if you position them you got to move them around your ear till you hear the level of bass that you want. Because what's crazy about these about the Samsung Buds Live is that you can actually adjust them in so many different ways that'll give you a completely different sound. Like, I played around with them in my ears, and I don't know how the hell I've moved them in there, but like I fiddled around where like, oh, now the vocals sound clear. Oh, now the guitar sound better. Oh, now the bass sounds better. So in a way, that's really good, but in a way, it's also really like kind of finicky about how you put them in your ear. Like every time, I don't know, I have a feeling they're very hard to get like consistent sound, like the same way you want it every time. Because it seems like every time I put them in my ear, the sound is slightly different. That's how finicky. I've never tried a pair of headphones that were that particular about how you put them in your ear. Like the smallest little adjustment changes the sound slightly. Yeah. But if you get them just right, they actually sound incredible. They sound really, really good. The mids and the highs are actually pretty smooth. Very smooth mids and highs. One strange thing. So the bass is really great. The bass is amazing on the Buds Live. If you get it positioned right. That's without a question, the bass is amazing. The mids and highs are very smooth and warm. For some people, they might sound a little too muddy, because that's the dilemma of like sound. If you want to sharpen it up and peak it a bit, it'll be more detailed, but it can also like pierce your ears if you don't like that sound. I would say the Buds Live are definitely more on the warm side. In the mids and trebles, one strange thing about them, again, it might be how they were positioned in my ears, but on certain songs, depending on the frequency of the vocals, like sometimes the vocals seem a bit washed out, like they get lost in the mix, and other times they sound very present. And I've noticed that it's kind of hit and miss sometimes, depending on a part of the song where it is, or like just the frequency of the vocal range and where it is. There's slight dip somewhere, which makes sense why they're kind of warm sounding. I think they have some sort of dip in some of those mid and high frequencies that makes it sound warmer. I can't tell exactly where it is, but on certain songs you kind of feel like there's something slightly missing, or it's lowered, and like the vocals will get drowned out depending on the song and how the vocals are mixed in that song. I would say if you listen to rock music, mainly rock, folk, indie, that kind of music, with a lot of natural instruments, organic sounds, they sound really amazing because it lets the music breathe and it separates it really well. If you listen to a lot of R&B, EDM, rap, that kind of stuff, the AUKEY ones are actually great. They sound great. The only thing the AUKEYs don't do well is sound separation. And also, depending on how picky you are with the sound, I notice that if I like every style of music, so I listen to basically everything, but when I listen to rock, indie, folk, that kind of stuff, I like the music to breathe more. So I actually prefer the Buds Live. But when I listen to like R&B or something like that, pop music, since the AUKEYs seal in the sound, they don't let the music breathe. It actually doesn't bother me when I listen to. It doesn't seem to really sound bad on electronic instruments for whatever reason. It's just the way the sound is. And plus, a lot of that kind of music, like pop, rap, R&B, it's got that kick that it needs. And when it's sealed well, you really feel that kick. So like a lot of those songs are very drum and bass oriented. That's like the main life of that song. And the AUKEYs do a really good job of that. Like for $69, like the bass is really good. It really drives the songs good, because with that kind of music, if you don't hear that thump in the low end, whether it's in the drums, especially the kick drum or any sort of, or the bass, it just, that song doesn't really sound the way it's supposed to sound. It's actually kind of crazy to listen to R&B and rap and that kind of music and then hear that song again on a proper set of headphones. I can hear, because you're missing so much of the song. Like most of those kind of songs, unless you have a really good seal and really good bass, you're not hearing most of the song. There's so much low-end stuff happening. And so for $69, those AUKEY headphones are amazing. So now you're probably wondering, Tony, you haven't really talked much about the Jabra Elite 75Ts. Well, speaking of bass, there are by far the best sounding headphones for that style of music. If you listen to R&B, rap, pop music, the Jabra Elite 75Ts are incredible. They're incredibly, incredibly good. My only complaint, the best bass I've heard in a headphone, the Jabra Elite 75Ts, my only complaint is that the vocals sometimes are a little bit drowned out in the mix. Like there's a lot of bass, and the bass does pretty good job at separating itself from like the vocals, but somehow it's still like the vocals are still kind of drowned out a lot of times. So that's like basically my own. The lows are good. The highs are about where you want them, especially if you listen to a lot of electronic music, because those highs sometimes, depending on like the kind of drums they use, like it can be pretty harsh. So you don't want the treble to be too crazy. I think it's about where it needs to be. The only complaints I have about the Jabra Elites is, as far as sound, is one, the mid-range, the vocals, sometimes they don't sound as up front as I'd want them to. And also, if you listen to rock music and indie kind of music, they're really sealed in your ear. I mean, I guess the AUKEYs are the same, but that sealed in sound is very similar to what people don't like about active noise cancellation with a good set of headphones. They feel like it's too claustrophobic, like the sound is too sealed in, it doesn't breathe. So if you listen to mainly rock, indie, folk kind of music, I would definitely go for the Samsung Galaxy Buds Live. If you listen to a lot of electronic music, rap, hip-hop, whatever it is you listen to, dance music, whatever it is, the Jabra Elites are incredible. They're about as good as you can get. I think I'm losing my voice. But if you don't want to spend, because the Jabra Elites are pretty expensive, so if you don't want to spend that much money, the AUKEY ones are a great option for like a cheaper set of headphones. I mean, cheaper is relative. Maybe $69.99 is still expensive. So what am I getting at here? Final conclusion. These are 3 random set of headphones that I'm reviewing. And like I said, the only reason I wanted to do this review is because I've tried all 3. I'm familiar with the sound. And like I said, I saw mixed reviews of all of them, really. So that's pretty much it. That's my final conclusion. And let me see here. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I missed. So the Samsung Galaxy Buds Live, they kind of sound good with almost any kind of music. I'm trying to think if there was anything that I heard with them that I didn't like. I think everything sounded good. Rap music, dance music, pop music, rock music, indie music. Almost any genre of music sounded good as long as they were positioned properly in your ear. You got to play around with them. Because sometimes if you shove them too far deep into your ear, it'll actually make the vocal sound kind of muddy, like it's kind of claustrophobic. They actually start sounding a lot more like the sealed in ones with the silicone tip. So if you shove them too hard and deep in your ear and really seal them well, they actually start sounding like the Jabras. And then where it's like that claustrophobic sound. So you really got to play around with them and see what sound you like. But if you get them just right, they sound good on almost any kind of music. And then and then the AUKEYs sound really great, other than the fact that they have that sealed in sound, and also the instrument separation is not that great. It's the stereo imaging is not that, like, everything is kind of just like pretty closed in. And then the Jabra Elites, my only real complaint was that I wish that the vocals were a bit more up front in some songs, and also I wouldn't recommend them if you're mainly listening to rock and indie and that kind of music. I'd much rather go with the Samsung Galaxy Buds Live, because the instruments breathe and they sound more natural and better. And I think that's that, because, yeah, because I'm at 23 minutes. So, all right, well, if that helped, that's good. I just noticed now that, well, actually, no, I'm still under. When it gets to 24 minutes, it actually splits the file into two. So I'm going to hit stop before it does that. And that's it. So have a good day, and hopefully that video helped. Bye.